Hi, I'm Elis. I've got hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. I'm a trustee for Cardiomyopathy UK, and I'm the chair of the Children's, Young Persons and Young Adults panel.
I'm Jasmine. I'm a supporter of someone with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, that's him, and I'm also a member of the Young People's panel.
We thought we'd do a little video blog just to kind of see, what people's thoughts are, if people have any sort of anxieties and worries about obviously what we're facing at the moment in time, when there's a global coronavirus pandemic isn't exactly the nicest situation to be in. And we just thought we'd share our thoughts with you, really. So do we think, for example, that the government has acted well enough to protect vulnerable people? I would say in general, yes. For me personally, although it was nice to hear originally that, if you're vulnerable, if you're in the vulnerable category, you should be self-isolating straight away to avoid any unnecessary risk. That's all well and good saying that, but I think a lot of people with, like myself, who work full-time with a heart condition, it's really down to the employer, rather than, because it wasn't necessarily strict guidelines that they set. Luckily for me, my employer, South Wales Police, they're very understanding of my situation, and when I decided to work from home pretty soon into the pandemic, they were fully supportive of that. So have you got any more thoughts?
So I work in the NHS. I think, yeah, like you were saying, there was enough out there for vulnerable people, but I don't think there was enough clarity on those who live with vulnerable people. So, when Alice was told to work from home, I was thinking to myself, oh, should I be working from home as well? Because I don't want to bring anything back to the house. So yeah, there wasn't enough clarity at all, really, on what you should do if you are living with someone who's vulnerable. Mm-hmm. But luckily, my employer, they understood why I was worried, and they said, yes, of course, you can work from home. So yeah, mm-hmm. I did get the support, so that was good.
Yeah. It was a bit delayed at first, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because it was all well and good me working from home, but at the same time, when Jasmine was going in and out of NHS buildings every day, you're increasing your risk there, especially when the more and more people start getting ill.
Yeah.
The more and more risky it gets, and obviously Jas, not being necessarily vulnerable herself, may pick it up and not realise, and then bring home to me.
Yeah.
But luckily we're both working from home now, so yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So how has our role in public sectors affected our risk? I mean, as I said, I work for the police, Jasmine works for the NHS, and although originally it was a bit of a stressor for me, obviously working in a police station, people are coming and going in and out all day from all over the sort of South Wales, from all the way from Swansea up to Cardiff, and the heads of the valleys. But like I said, luckily for me, I can do my job from home because I'm not an officer. Obviously, because I'm police staff, it's obviously a bit different rules for us. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'll be working from home for the duration of the isolation period, as I may be called in. It just kind of depends. It's obviously the nature of my job. I mean, am I worried about that? Not too much, because it's not something that I'll definitely have to do. And luckily for me, like I said, my employers are very understanding of my situation, and I think I'd probably be the last on their list to be called in the event that I needed to. And same with you as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so, well, like I said, I'm also working in the public sector for the NHS. I have been told I can work from home for the time being, but I am sort of on a standby list, so I might be called to help with something else, because obviously the NHS are facing with a lot of pressures at the moment. But yeah, we'll just have to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was the next topic we've got. What should we go for? Public response.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I suppose that's another thing that might be a bit stressful as well, is the public response to the guidelines that the government have set. Obviously, we adhere to the government guidelines quite strictly based on our situation, with not wanting to bring anything back here based on my sort of more vulnerable state. However, it is quite infuriating, especially over the last weekend where the weather's been nice for a change. You've seen plenty of people congregating down the beaches, things like that, which has been quite frustrating to see that people clearly aren't giving this enough serious thought. And although it may not affect some people, it might affect, for example, you know, I'm a young person, I'm only 26, even though I've got grey hairs already, I'm still quite young. But I don't think people realise that, you know, you don't necessarily have to be old to be vulnerable, which sort of echoes the message we try to send with the young persons panel that we do work with. Is obviously, you know, young people get heart conditions too, young people get plenty of other health conditions as well. It's not just cardiomyopathy, myocarditis that affects younger people, which can put them in a more vulnerable state. But quite infuriating, but the best thing we can do for ourselves is try and stay as safe as possible. For example, when we go shopping, do you want to give an example of what we do when we go shopping?
Oh yeah, so when we go shopping, I'll make sure that I touch everything, and Ellis just walks around with the trolley with his gloves on. So so we're restricting him then from touching a lot of stuff, a lot of the food and whatnot. So
even though the public might not be taking it so seriously, there's things you can put in place that will sort of reduce your risk, such as, for example, me walking around with my gloves on, only touching the trolley. But as soon as we get home from the shop, first thing we do, wash our hands straight away. Then once we unpack the shopping, wash our hands again straight away. And it's just, again, a sake of just regular hand washing, making sure you're not obviously touching your face after you've done that and things like that. So even though the public may be a little bit annoying, the general public, not everyone obviously, there are things you can put in place yourself to kind of minimise your risk, even though there may be still large crowds of people at things like shops, pharmacies, hospitals, doctors, things like that. So have we faced any challenges as a couple during this trying time?
Oh, I have.
Do you want to elaborate?
No, I'm only joking. I don't know really. I suppose I love going to the gym. I love keeping fit. So as soon as the outbreak started, I made sure that I stopped going to the gym, because the more I was thinking into it, I was like, this could, you know, down the line, there could be a lot of people congregating in the gym, a lot of germs going around. So yeah, I stopped going to the gym pretty early on, didn't I?
Yeah.
And now they're all closed. So yeah, but we've been doing workouts in the house. And that's really good, isn't it? That's really good for you as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think that's an important thing is always to keep fit and healthy while you are stuck in at the same time. For example, you know, Jas obviously loves going to the gym, and I think she was quite gutted not being able to. But at the same time, it's sort of for the best long term. And yeah, like I said, you know, we do things like workouts in the house, things like that. But in general, I mean, sort of challenge, the only challenge we really faced was initially the sort of, you know, me working from home, and then Jas's employer not having anything in place for, you know, if you live with someone who's vulnerable. I think that was the main challenge. It caused us quite a lot of uncertainty for the first sort of couple of days, especially. Because as I said previously, you know, me staying home is all well and good, but if Jas brings it home, then it's
pointless then, isn't it?
Yeah. But again, we're just staying as safe as possible, and I think everyone, you know, should be, especially if you're in a vulnerable category, or like Jas, living with someone in a vulnerable category, staying as safe as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah. So do we have any advice, professional, incredible, insightful advice for people in our situation?
I don't know, if you're self-isolating at the moment, and you really don't want to go out at all, like, you know, luckily we do feel confident enough to go out in the day once, you know, to the shop. We do go out once every day to walk the dogs. But if you don't have the confidence or feel like you shouldn't be going to the shop, ask if like a member of the family can go for you. A neighbour, yeah. I'm sure, well, I've seen plenty of support out in our community. People actually saying, you know, if you need us to go to the shop for you, just let us know. Yeah.
I would say probably the main thing would just try to live your life indoors as normal as possible. So things like obviously going to the gym, we do workouts in the house. Obviously we've got 2 little dogs, so they get us out of the house at least once a day just to walk around, get a little bit of fresh air and exercise, things like that. Keep yourself occupied as well. Obviously we're both quite avid gamers, so I've in my downtime spent a lot of time on the PlayStation, and Jas spent a lot of time on the Nintendo Switch. And to stay hydrated as well, I think especially important for people who maybe, for example, if I don't drink enough throughout the day, I might get a bit lightheaded or might be more prone to getting a palpitation, which obviously is stressful enough, but especially when you're getting the coronavirus risk added onto that, the last thing you want to do is increase your chances of getting symptoms that might stress you out a bit more. So I think the best thing to do is just to live life like you normally would, in terms of staying hydrated, staying fit and healthy, and keeping your mind active. Reading especially is a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
Especially since the weather's nice, just pop out into your garden, do a bit of reading. And if you are walking the dogs like we do, obviously take extra precautions, such as not touching things like handrails, things like that. And if you really need to, you could always, you can get a pair in terms of staying hydrated, staying fit and healthy, and keeping your mind active. Reading especially is a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
Especially since the weather's nice, just pop out into your garden, do a bit of reading. And if you are walking the dogs like we do, obviously take extra precautions, such as not touching things like handrails, things like that. And if you really need to, you could always, you can get a pair of rubber gloves, or even like normal gloves you could just wear for the time being. Just make sure you wash them when you get back. But in general, it's only been about 2 weeks working from home with us and staying in, only going out once a day, things like that. So it hasn't been too much of a I don't know, it's hard to explain, isn't it? I haven't really felt the full effects of it just yet. Another bit of advice I would say is to try and limit the amount of times you go to the shop, is to create a meal plan. We always create a meal plan once a week anyway, so we only buy what we need in general. We've done that since we moved out last year. But I think it's especially important now, and I know a lot of things you're not going to be able to get, like you might not be able to get a bag of pasta or a bag of rice or potatoes for some reason. But the best thing you can do is just sort of improvise. If you have got sort of any questions about food and stuff, there's plenty of information online. A lot of chefs have got YouTube channels and things like that now. I know Jamie Oliver's doing a really good program, how to sort of make nice tasty healthy meals with limited supplies and things like that.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
It's also, at the same time, it's probably a good time to maybe start experimenting with food as well. Like we've cooked 1 or 2 things we've never cooked before. And if you look on Cardiomyopathy UK's website, there's information on there about sort of what foods are good and what foods are bad for you. So it might be maybe, try a new dish that you've never tried before, maybe incorporate a bit of that into it, a bit of healthiness. And now might be the time to start something new. Like I know a lot of people have been doing home workouts, but they're quite intense ones, and obviously that's not sort of feasible for people in our situation. So maybe take up a new hobby like yoga, something a bit less intense, but that keeps you, mobile. And just stay positive. Definitely stay positive. I think there's no reason to be in a negative mindset. There's always a way around an obstacle, such as your neighbours maybe doing shopping for you, or taking up a new hobby, or cooking something new, improvising with food if you can't get the food you need, and obviously staying hydrated. Everyone's got access to their tap water, so just stay as hydrated as possible. And that's about it. So hopefully we'll see you guys soon on another little video blog like this. And stay positive.
Stay positive and take care.